restaurant was called Fred and Toby's. My brother's Toby, and so people came in expecting to see either Fred or Toby. Therefore, I felt tied to the restaurant 24/7. We were open 6 days a week, and that was part of the beginning of the end as far as my love affair with the restaurant business.
Yeah, never a vacation, never any time off.
No. In fact, I skipped. My brother's almost 4 years younger than I am, and so we had friends all in between us age-wise, and I skipped 2 summers. They went to Kentucky Lake and got a houseboat, and I stayed at the restaurant. It's part of it. It's part of entrepreneurship. Where I was going to go with that is that's one reason, in my opinion, you guys are all familiar with the restaurant chain Planet Hollywood. Well, when Planet Hollywood came out, a lot of their grand openings, the investors, the owners, if you will, your Demi Moore and Bruce Willis's and Arnold Schwarzenegger's were at these events. Well, people would go to the Planet Hollywood expecting to see Demi Moore, maybe not consciously, but expecting to see Demi Moore or Arnold or one of these stars at the restaurants. And unlike Hard Rock, where their scenario is more memorabilia, and they can have that in every restaurant, Planet Hollywood didn't work as a chain because they couldn't sustain that driving force.
So
that's my opinion.
Right. Let's move ahead a little bit. And so you'd had enough of the restaurant industry. How in the world did you go from the restaurant in Indiana to being in Nashville in the entertainment industry?
Well, that's a really good question. There's a little in between there. I kind of saw the writing on the wall as far as, or felt it more or less. I'd say about a year before I got out of the restaurant business. So I started going to night school to get my real estate salesperson's license. Not to be a realtor, but to buy real estate and be a holding company and lease residential real estate to tenants. Went through that process. Got out of the restaurant business. I had the opportunity to lease the building to a guy for his different concept. So jumped on that, got out of the restaurant business. My parents were already in the rental business. So I say we, by that time my brother was out of college, and we created an office because up to that point my parents had done everything out of their home. We created an office, and I proceeded to buy 239 rental units in about 18 months. So I dove head first, if you will, into the real estate rental business.
Sounds like you had a little bit of debt going on there.
A lot of debt, and that was during the time frame when, I don't know if Carlton Sheets is still on the air, but I was a Carlton Sheets disciple, and let's just say my buddy Dave Ramsey I've switched thought processes, but I was doing the Carlton Sheets thing where I'd buy a house, cash out 15 or 20 grand, and put that into cash flow, and then buy another house, or use it for the down payment on the second house. And rather than flipping them, I was creating an inventory. And one time I had a real estate company that was $10 million in debt, but it was worth $15 million. Well, as most of you know, we've been through a recession, and real estate was a large part of that recession, and primarily because you had unscrupulous brokers and appraisers that were working together, maybe not on the surface, but it was very easy for me to get an appraisal for 20% more than what the house was really worth. And not that I was mindfully doing anything wrong, but I was essentially buying property with no money down,
right,
or cashing out, and accumulating all this property and also debt.
Right.
and eventually it came crashing down. Now we've reorganized, actually coming out of the other side of a Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and going to be, we've downsized. I think we're going to hold on to a little less than 100 units, and come out hopefully lean and mean on the other side. If you had told me 18 years ago that I had been talking about coming out of a Chapter 11, I would have laughed in your face. I would have been, I was like, there's no way. First of all, I'm not going to be out of the restaurant business, is what I would have said. Second of all, what do you mean real estate? And third of all, what are you talking about? Who in the hell are big and rich? Which leads me to your real question.
The next phase.
Yeah. Somewhere in that mix, in between the restaurant and the real estate business, I had heard about this thing in Nashville called Fanfare. Well, I was a pretty avid country music fan and really kind of plugged into the country music genre, if you will. And CMT was starting to get some steam, and I think TNN had just switched over to TNT. But anyway, I decided to go to this thing called Fanfare. And one night during the week, I came down by myself. All my friends either worked real jobs or didn't have the money to come. And I tell Dave, when I tell this story in groups, I tell Dave Ramsey I came down on a credit card, and he just, he cringes. I was like, yeah, but I wouldn't have met you if I hadn't used a credit card. I wouldn't be sitting here right now, but definitely cut up your credit cards. Now it would have been a debit card. So came down, was out and about, and met this guy by the name of John Rich, who I know now has just gotten kicked out of the band Lone Star. Right. And I recognize him because of his Fu Manchu mustache. And we struck up a conversation, and the next day I went to his line at Fanfare, and he had a solo thing trying to go on at the time, and he wrote his email address on the back of his 8x10 that he signed for me. Well, back then I had email as well, but back then hardly. This was about almost 12 years ago. Very few people had email addresses, but we stayed in touch, over the years, just very randomly. And was I texting that? Did you get a text?
That wasn't mine. No.
I think that I was one of the people that pushed Dr. Cornwall over the edge to get texting.
Yes, you did. Yeah.
So
you pushed me over the edge in a lot of ways.
Okay. So I stayed in touch with John, and then 5 years, so 7 years ago, 5 years after I met him, I get this email about this time of the year, and it's like, hey, little man, it's your old pal John Rich from Nashville. I've got this crazy new duo called Big and Rich, and we've got a wacky video that we think you would fit in. Would you be interested in being in a country music video? And I was like, are you kidding me? When and where? I'm done. I'm there. So, time went on, and then I get an email, and he says, oh, by the way, we're going to lovingly refer to you as 2 Foot Fred on the set.
So he gave you the nickname.
So that was, before that, I was just Fred,
right.
Fred Gill, whatever I was. Sometimes Toby, because my brother is the same size as I am, so I answer to a lot of things. And so my brother actually, a little side note, my brother's claim to fame is he's an inch taller than I am, so he literally called me Shorty. I'm not kidding, he called me Shorty. So came down, did the video on the Shelby Street footbridge, and John was the only person that I barely knew, and everybody's called me 2 Foot Fred because they didn't know any different. And
did that bother you at first?
No, I ate it up. Are you kidding me? I'm on the set of a freaking music video. I was in heaven. And had a 4:30 a.m. call time. and I learned the term of hurry up and wait real fast. They didn't use me till 3 p.m. that day.
Oh, wow.
But if most of you have seen the video, for a video, I made quite a few appearances, and then I see a Music Mafia hat over there. Went to a Music Mafia Music Mafia show. Kind of had, open invitation to come to shows and Music Mafia stuff. I was just learning what the Music Mafia was. And I learned later that they were doing this online ticketing thing, sort of like a local Ticketmaster. It's been bought several times. I'm not sure what the current version is in Nashville.
Right.
NashvilleTicketSomething.com.
Right.
Anyhow, I found out I was the first person to buy a ticket for the Memphis Music Mafia. So I go over there, and I met James Otto, and I met the rest of the people. John and Kenny weren't there. They had a friend that actually got killed on a motorcycle a few days before that. But I met everyone else, John Nicholson and everyone else in Music Mafia, and really just felt like I needed to be part of that, and I was welcomed with open arms. And so then they were like, why don't you come to Vegas? We're doing this performance after the ACMs at the House of Blues. And I said, done. I'd love to, So I go and I call Mark.
This is all on your nickel.
This is all on my nickel.
Right.
More like quarter.
And you weren't getting paid at this point in time.
No, I was just hanging out. I was a buddy. And I wasn't really performing at this time. I was just around. And so I remember I called Mark Oswald, who is Big and Rich's manager. I said, Mark, the guys from the Mafia invited me to Vegas for the ACMs. I think I'm going to come. And he said, oh. He goes, bring your outfit from Save a Horse. I'm like, oh, man. Okay. So I'm like, and that's all he said. Bring your wardrobe from Save a Horse. So they actually put me in the performance. If you watch the 2004 ACM Big and Rich performance, I'm on the cannon, on the back of the cannon that shoots out the confetti at the end. You can just barely see me. And Mark said that he was in the truck with Rack Clark. Rack is Dick Clark's son. Has taken over a lot of the producing responsibilities. Dick Clark is like your version of Ryan Seacrest. He does everything. He did everything. And Rack has sort of taken over the reins. Right. And Mark said, Rack said, who in the hell's that? when I was back there on the cannon, because it just sort of slipped me into the performance. Well, that led to me coming to Fanfare that year.